All right, welcome to the Big Story Podcast. I'm Alex Morrissey, and today we have Mr. Sway Art himself, Josh Swaby. Is it Swaby?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
glad you got it right.
Well, I don't know, otherwise it would sound like I was being a pirate, and I didn't know if that was the best way to do it. So I thought Swaby was the way to go. So it's a good.
Yeah.
It makes for a great nickname. You have it built in. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
I have with the last name Morrissey. Not really anything really built in there. So if there is, it's not really good. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well. You're just busy and just basically, just getting and preparing for next week. Because I supposed to go to Fan Expo for Chicago.
Nice.
So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's So so we record these and put them out in time. So you'll have already been in Fan Expo by the time people see or hear this. And I was in Heroes Con this last weekend, but that would have been like weeks ago for people when it comes out. That's like time traveling. But it is a lot of work prepping for a show.
Yeah.
Many friends there with all their paraphernalia and things. I didn't
Hmm.
have really, I had cards. Like I came with cards in a bag. That was it. But um I was dead tired, beat up, exhausted. I have not done a convention since the 90s, like a full weekend thing. So
Wow.
I was ill prepared for the the amount of energy it took from me. So yeah.
um, for me, I would say like this whole year, I've been like, traveling and going to a lot more conventions that I haven't done before.
Hmm.
So for me, luckily enough, I have a rep that is able to like, get all the prints and stuff that I have to like sell and everything.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy for that. The rep that I'm at is Comic Sketch Art, and they're
Okay.
really amazing. And from there, just basically, traveling and and experiencing new, states and new, cities because normally I'm so stuck at home in New York. So
Right.
for me, I don't know much about the other world. So it's really cool to get to see like different other cities. I for the first time went to Canada.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, I went
Whereabouts?
to Calgary.
Okay. Yeah.
It was really nice. It was really cool. So yeah.
That's where the art, I guess the art rep, Inky Knuckles is.
Yes, I think I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're based out of Calgary. I just spoke with them,
Nice.
and yeah, no, it's yeah. I mean, I love Canada.
Mm.
It's a great country. So in your travels, what are some of your favorite places?
So far, I had to say Washington, Washington D.C.
Yeah,
The reason why, the because I was at the downtown side,
yeah,
and it felt a little bit like downtown Brooklyn.
yeah,
So, and I was able to walk to the convention.
yep,
It was really nice to be able to like, and there's a lot more greenery than there is in, New York. So there,
sure,
it was really nice to, be able to roam around a little bit in
uh-huh.
the city and stuff, and also get to see the White House and get to see like the big monumental stuff.
Yeah,
So it was really cool. But
it's yeah, it's cool. It's cool. We traveled there. I mean, for the first time since I was a child. We
hmm
went there recently, and I mean, what you were saying, like that was our conversation the whole time. Like we're like,
hmm
oh, this feels like we're in Brooklyn Heights. This feels
yeah.
like all these different neighborhoods as we're walking through. We're like, oh wow, this is really. It was really kind of cool. So,
Yeah.
and that was for AwesomeCon.
Yes, that was for Awesome Con. Yeah.
Sweet, that's nice. How was that show?
It's pretty okay. I would have to say because I've heard like it was usually normally that con would be like really like big and a lot of people were there. And though a lot of people were there, it did feel a little bit dry, to
Yeah,
be really honest with you. But I don't know. I think it's honestly because things are kicking back in,
yeah,
and COVID, and even though we're still in a pandemic a little bit, things are slowly coming back to where it is. So,
Sure.
to be honest with you, it was all right, but overall, I was glad to be in Washington. So,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the those showrunners are doing, but I know that the showrunners for Heroes Con, what they did is they actually opened up the aisles.
mm,
They were wider than they had historically been. So
hmm
it didn't feel as it was crowded as usual, but the numbers said that the numbers were higher and everybody had a really great show. So
hmm
maybe it was just kind of a psychological thing. Maybe those runners opened up the aisles, and you had that sense that there was just maybe not as many people, but there just was more foot.
yeah.
I don't know. So are you? I mean, I'm guessing maybe then you're a native of Brooklyn.
I live in Brooklyn,
Nice.
um, born and raised. So for me, I'm used. I see all the changes in New York.
Hmm.
So yeah.
And one of my best friends who actually lives down here in
hmm
North Carolina is a born and raised from Brooklyn. So
Nice.
it was, so it's fun to spend time with him because I lived in New York for about 25 years. So having
hmm
at least we can sit and we can be New Yorkers together, which is kind of fun. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, it's the best. So yeah, I've seen your work a lot recently, and the work and it's a really impressive, and I'll start
Thank
talking
you.
about the art a little while. Um, and I was like, I'm like, oh, I definitely like, I don't know how I came across you. I think probably, somebody posted something, I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then
hmm
then I started cyber stalking you and then looking at stuff and be like, oh my God, like, this is ridiculous. And then, and then eventually I'm like, all right, well, let me see if Josh would be up for the Pepsi challenge, and reached out to you. And so like, I mean, we were talking before, and you're doing a cover for a game and some cards that have to go for the games.
hmm
Like, are you more of an illustrator, or are you like a comic obsessive? Like, I don't like, what is your like?
I'm more of an illustrator. You can tell from my work. I like to stray a little bit. Even though my stuff does feel mainstream, that I do like to stray a little bit more editorial stuff.
Yeah.
So I've done stuff for like Entertainment Weekly. I've done stuff for like Crystal Dynamics for like their Avengers game. I did something for Balmain for Z2 Comics for their sort of anthology for Paris Fashion Week and stuff. So I've done a lot, even though my main thing is doing covers and stuff
Yeah.
and for comics. But I would say I'm more of an illustrator. So
Okay, that's cool. Did you study illustration, or are you self-taught? Like, what's your?
I'd like to say I was self-taught. I've been always been drawing, but um, uh, from around high school and college, I did major in cartooning. So
Okay.
I went to School of Visual Arts,
Oh, same
and
here.
oh, you went to School of Visual Arts
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. You went what class?
I'm old, man.
Oh, you're old.
I
Okay.
graduated in 1991. So
Okay.
back when we had Will Eisner as a teacher. So
Oh,
many,
okay.
many moons ago. Yeah.
Cool, cool. I graduated in 2020.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
Wow.
and I've had Claus Jensen, and I had like Phil Jimenez and
I just looked
David
across.
Mazzucchelli.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, not some shabby people, with a pencil in their hand, I'd say,
Yeah.
or a brush. Um, Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and it's funny. Like we talk and joke about it. Like, I mean, we had these luminaries. We had when we who are our teachers, but then like after we graduated, they all sort of retired quickly,
Mhm.
and they were replaced by Walt Simonson and Klaus and
Mhm.
all these. I mean, just more contemporary creators who like were from our generation of the
Yeah.
comic we read versus the spirit wasn't a comic book in the stores when I was growing up, but
Mhm.
um and it's amazing, like SVA's reputation as a school, I think, has just exploded in the last 25 years.
Mhm.
It's a real powerhouse, and it just keeps producing just unbelievable talent. Not that they didn't have talent to begin with, but
Yeah.
seems to be a real, incubator for
Hmm. Yeah.
so that's cool. So you went through the whole illustration program. Did you do any cartooning courses, or was it
Oh
just
no, I was a cartooning, but yeah, I also did a little bit of illustration courses, a little
yeah?
bit.
Did you have John
Um,
Ruggieri's class?
I don't think so. He's a painter.
No, it was a life drawing class.
Life drawing class? No.
Right.
I think when I my drawing, um, basically well life drawing, I had Phil who was my drawing, and then I also had someone else, but I can't remember who because I
Yeah.
know for a fact, um, he was also he went to art and design, which the high school that I went to,
Yeah.
and he also was like friend student, and he now is an instructor there, and I took him. Can't remember his name, but a really amazing painter.
Hmm.
So.
Yeah. So a bunch of my friends who I went to
Hmm.
school with, they all went to art and design as well. Like that was
Hmm.
like, there's a lot of really talented kids who go to those
Yeah.
schools and then sort of filter into the 4 or 5 art schools in New York City.
Yeah.
And you guys all come with a bit of a reputation. You're all a bunch of cool kids. So
Yes. Yeah. I would say luck. Things have changed. I've actually went to the school. I believe last year. Yeah. A lot has changed as I remember when I graduated there in 2016. Because as I know, our class we were really like cool, but there were some like we were quite wild,
mhm,
as I remember. But yeah, a lot of things has changed in the whole curriculum for the school now
right.
that is not as it is as I was there. So.
Yeah. So okay, so I'm doing the timeline thing. So I mean, you're a kid of the 2000s. I mean, you grew up in the 2000s, and
Hmm.
so I mean that it's an interesting period of specifically in the comic book realm of things because it really it's the sort of the post sort of the that period where it was ruled by two companies, and then the sort of the maturing, yes, I think the maturing of Image
Hmm.
happened in that first 10 years of the 2000s, where they really like were producing comics of super high caliber, and so it's an interesting kind of thing where had you been born 20 years before that, you'd have, your whole sort of focus is like it's either Marvel or DC, because that really was, there's the shelf, and then there's like a handful of smaller companies.
Yeah.
So, were you like into comics or cartoons as a kid?
Oh, I was very into very much comics. I I wish I could show you the whole shelf of like Marvel comics and DC comics that I have.
Yeah.
I was really I was really a big comic geek. My first comic that I've bought that my grandmother bought in Toys R Us was
Nice.
the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay,
Um,
sure.
yeah, from the volume one that Michael, I think Bendis. It was Bendis who was part of that whole scenarios for Spider-Man and stuff.
Mhm.
So that was the first comic that I read, and I've read it so much and stuff. And then from there on, you know, um, from Fantastic Four and then Electra. I was, like you said, I was basically around the 2000s, so I was very as a kid into all the really bad Marvel movies. So like the Fantastic Four, Electra,
Yeah.
Punisher. So those stuff, still nostalgia, but they also geared me to like, want to read those comics
Hmm.
when I was a kid. Even though I think at the time being like, how Marvel is now and before, I was, reading a lot of the mature
Yeah.
sort of books and stuff. So yeah, I was very into those stuff, and I was into from DC a lot of Catwoman. um I think I've like read a lot of like Justice League Dark and stuff. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting period. I guess like, yeah, I mean, I guess you would have like read like Civil War and all that all those
yeah.
books. Like that must have been like and then Infinite Crisis, I think, probably was like one of the DC sort of big event thing. So like,
I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess it's an interesting chunk because I think it really was like the 2000s have been the event comics decades. Like I think
Hmm.
Marvel and DC have been, really like refining their event comics, offerings. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna blow you away with, a year's worth of, 70 different comic books that are like,
Hmm.
linked together, which is,
Yeah.
you know, mind blowing how they do that. So I mean, so was Spider-Man the first love for like a character? Was it like,
Yeah, it's funny because I think that that's it. Spider-Man was like typically like everybody's like younger
yeah,
exposure to comics, so I was really into it. But I was also find myself the very like edgy kind of kid because I was like I know Black Widow and I knew like some other characters like what's it call it the young like I knew some of like the Young Avengers characters and what else just the X-Men.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah? No, I think Spider-Man was always that, like, for me, was that character, and like I think always is my favorite character, even though I
Hmm.
have more favorite comic books or series runs. But like,
Yeah.
you know, if I'm like sitting there and like, oh, I gotta, if I had to, if I, if someone's like, do whatever you want, with somebody else's characters, I'm like,
Hmm.
I think it would be Spider-Man, just because like he's just so much fun. I love drawing Spider-Man like
Yeah,
that.
Spider-Man is real. It's funny because the board game that was I'm doing, Spider-Man is included. And to be really honest with you, I've done a lot of like the Miles Morales covers, and
Yeah,
those are the ones that I really enjoy. And
cool.
that's the timeline that I've actually went back to like kind of like read a bit more of Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah,
And then for the board game, since they wanted me to do Peter Parker's version, at first I was just like, oh, the lines.
yep.
I'm kind of tired. But then as I was drawing him, I was like, oh, he's kind of fun to draw. And then it's too because I grew up with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So those are the ones that I sort of like, put influence into the board game cover that I was doing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I like those Sam Raimi movies, and
It's really yeah.
yeah, I mean, they feel of the sort of that, they feel like Ditko comic, Ditko Spider-Man. Like they have that
Yes.
sort of early Spider-Man vibe to it.
Hmm.
And I mean, honestly, I've enjoyed all of the Spider-Men, actors and characters. So it's,
Hmm.
and that last one was just such a hoot. Um,
Yeah, but Spider-Man 2 is like the top notch.
yeah,
That's I still feel like it's like the best
yeah,
superhero film just because you're able to see a character lose everything
hmm,
and then bring their stuff back up.
yeah.
And it's very cool. And Sam Raimi, he did his job and I love his work and
It
stuff.
was, it was really interesting because, like, we back, in art school, were big fans of
Hmm.
Sam Raimi because of the Evil Dead movies. So he
Yeah.
was sort of kind of a hero. And I think when we were, yeah, when our last year in school is when Evil Dead 3, the Medieval Dead movie, came out.
Hmm.
And like, so we were like, yeah, he's the best. And then flash forward, a decade, and then it's like, oh, he's going to be doing Spider-Man, and it was like, you got to be kidding me. How cool is
Yeah.
that? Like, the guy who did crazy wacky horror films, but he had such a good sensibility for like kinetic camera work.
Yes,
It really
yes.
is.
Especially when because I watched Doctor Strange, the multiverse,
Yeah, don't blow it.
and
We're gonna watch it tonight, so
are you guys gonna watch it tonight?
yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna say nothing, but I'm gonna
Oh, I
tell you
know. I'm
this.
super excited to see it. So
He did everything that I like. He brought something different
yeah,
and creative that I really wish that more Marvel movies did
okay.
because there's a lot of formula in a lot of the the movies and a lot of the Marvel movies and stuff. But this one in particular, I just really love the way that he was able to do something different. And there's a
Okay.
little bit more of horror experience, so you definitely will enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. As long as and I listen, one of my all-time favorite actors is Chiwetel Ejiofor. And so,
Mm,
like, I mean, and the and that he's in these movies. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
this is like, to me, is like, the a chef's kiss of amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can't wait to watch it. We've been busy, and there hasn't been time to sit and watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, well then it gets the sway mark of approval, so I'm already pretty excited. So okay, so you so I mean like yeah I mean like I mean most everyone was sort of like their artist in their school that growing up or whatever, and then
Mhm.
but your high school is notorious for kind of like all the best artists of the city are going to that school, and then
Mhm.
then you go off to SVA, which where now you're getting more of the best artists all together. So like we can bypass the okay, so you're an obsessive artist.
Mhm.
Like what was your path from, like, I guess what was your mindset going through school about what was your vision like of what you wanted to do? Like did you have like, hey, I'm going to go through SVA and I'm going to start working while I'm in school, or I'm going to, what was your thing?
So I to tell you this, how I got into this industry, I was very lucky, and it was
Hmm.
also it was very unexpected. But before like my plan, after I finished, art and design, that my whole goal, I wanted to be a comic artist, or I wanted to branch around
Yeah.
other works and stuff. But SVA was the main school that I wanted to go to because it has basically the teachers and stuff that were part of the industry, and I felt like what, I wanted to be in that school. And I did took their pre-college, and then from there on I got a scholarship and did all the 4 years. um I would say from like around 2020, you know, I did had like a sort of moment because with COVID happening and everything, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do because the world was tumbling down a little bit, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to start off my career. So from that time being, it was just like it was kind of scary, but also just like I I don't know. In my head, I was just like, I guess I need to keep creating, and hopefully, somebody finds me. But from also with COVID, it had a big whole situation with the George Floyd and the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and from that point on, that was sort of the reason how I got in the industry. I just on Twitter, I just put my what's it called, my portfolio. I put my like some artwork, and I said, hey, I just graduated SVA. I'm looking to do some cover art. Um, is there hopefully somebody finds me, and then I got in so many acknowledgement and so many like recognition and opportunities to the point where I was just like it was Rick Reminder who was the first person who asked me to do a cover for
No.
his scumbag sort of series, and then from there it went from Marvel. So that the first cover I did for Marvel was the Black Widow cover. It was sort of like a homage to the Dracula cover that I did.
Okay.
Um, and then from that point on, and then it went from Entertainment Weekly, and then it went from DC Comics, and then it went from Marvel Studios, and then it went from it just exploded. It things just kept piling in, and I was just like, holy crap, like it was just very unexpected. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you know looking at your work,
hmm
I honestly, when you were like, oh, I graduated in 2020, I mean, I like it, like my internal, well, wait a minute, what, 2020? Like, I mean, your work is ridiculously good for someone who graduated in 2020. Okay, so like, it's like, oh, okay, all right, recalibrate conversation. So like this is like, that's a pretty impressive sort of level that you're working
hmm
at at that age. That's not the average. So and so I mean, sure, yes, luck is a major element in every career.
yeah.
But drive has a lot to do with it as well, and what you do with those opportunities. These
hmm
are the big things. So and I think putting your work out there, it stands, and it speaks for itself.
hmm
So I mean, it's really great work. I'm just gonna put some things up and we can talk about
yeah.
about them, because I mean, they're some really cool pieces.
Hmm.
So now I'm guessing you're working predominantly, at least finishing in the digital environment. I think actually, yeah, you know what? Actually, we can go. Let's do this. Let's start here
Hmm.
first. Oh, what the only downside to uploading these things, they don't upload in order. Okay, so the sketch. So this sketch looks. If I'm looking, I mean, I guess you sketching in a digital environment.
Yes.
Okay.
This is all in digital and all in Photoshop. So a lot of my work, I start just doing like a rough sketch. I think during that time being for that piece,
Yeah.
because I was sort of like on like a tight sort of schedule. So I was at the time I just needed to pose. I just, I knew the face, I could do the face later,
Mhm.
but basically it was predominantly most of all of my rough sketches I do all in like digital and
Okay.
yeah, with a default brush. So yeah.
Right. Okay. So you're just kind of going and now do you thumbnail like
Hmm.
I mean, but do you thumbnail in digital or do you thumbnail on paper and kind of look at what?
I do all of my thumbnails on digital. Sometimes when I'm out and about
Mhm.
and I do have like thoughts, I would do like sketches on my in my sketchbook.
Okay.
I think from currently with the Punisher cover that I'm upcoming doing, and also the Red Sonja covers. I did like thumbnails and stuff, just a quick sketch of like what I want to do. But predominantly, I do all of my thumbnails on digital.
It's interesting because like so one of the the curses of art is that like when you do this little thumbnail and this maybe this is a different generation discussion,
Hmm.
but like you would sit and you would have a piece of paper and
Hmm.
you do your thumbnail and you go, okay, I like this one best, now let me do my piece, and then you do your piece and you're like, it doesn't have the same energy as this tiny little drawing did. And because it's not a digital environment, you can't take that
Hmm.
thing and expand it and then turn it in, and then build upon that.
Hmm.
And now, of course, I just, I'll take a picture of it with my phone and then put that on,
Yeah,
onto the computer or whatever. Um, so I guess that thumbnailing in the digital environment is a lifesaver in that respect because
yeah.
you're able to contain that and keep that magic. Um, Real quick, hopefully not, well, whatever. Segue here. So I mean, this is a digital thing. Like the computers at SVA, Josh, were locked in a room in the photography building,
Uh-huh.
and only a rarefied group had access to this room. So there is no sense of computers, in my art school experience. Now you're drawing so well, in a digital environment, but now
Hmm.
you're talking about being in school, and these, there's figure drawing classes, there's
Hmm.
classes, blah 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 blah. So how do you navigate through the schooling world where
Hmm.
you really have a very, you know, solid foundation in, working in a digital environment?
Oh, I'm sorry. You broke up, so you kind of I
Oh,
didn't really.
no worries. So, I mean, how did you navigate the sort of the school environment with all the different sort of requirements, but you're so good in the digital environment? Like,
um. So I'm gonna tell you this. In your probably experience from SVA, we you didn't have much of like digital stuff.
none.
So for today's generation, we had a lot more, and we was able to do a lot more. The library. There's a whole bunch of computers, and there's also a whole lot of Cintiqs. So
Okay.
there were kids who were like doing, even me, who were like doing stuff on the computer and getting stuff done. And then also offices, and even also there was also classes too where it was for digital art, and there was like a whole class that with Cintiqs and stuff that we was able to draw and stuff and everything. um for me, I know for my time, because I just you know is basically like doing most of all of my stuff digital. But before, I was doing a lot of stuff traditional stuff, or mixed media, where I would just like do a drawing and then I'll go to the school, or sometimes I had like a really terrible computer and just like and Photoshop, and I was able to like colorize certain things and stuff. So for me, it was it we was I was able to like I guess branch out and just do different things, and they were okay with it.
Okay.
Um, they and then also too the most of classes that I picked, they were just they're fine with doing digital stuff, or if you were doing stuff, or if you were doing traditional stuff, just show it out there. Because I remember at the time being when I was doing a lot of traditional stuff, I was doing a lot of like markers, and I was doing a lot of pencil graphite. So and then sometimes I would just like go to the library, scan it, and I'll either just like colorize it or just edit certain things. So it was we had a lot more freedom.
Yeah, that sounds
So
like it. I mean, it's interesting, like because my first vision was like, I'm like, are there just kids sitting in the class with an iPad just drawing, like in the figure drawing class
mhm.
versus, like a big sheet of newsprint and a charcoal in their hands. So,
There were classes that we had to literally had the newsprint paper and certain pencils and stuff to draw with, but there was also it was also professors who were like there was some that were lenient. You can do digital stuff.
mhm.
Strict, you have to do traditional stuff. So
Okay.
but really in this day and age, it was a lot more freedom for us to like to get the work done. you know Basically, if you have to do digital, if you have to do traditional, either way it was fine. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's fascinating because, I mean, it's like I said, I will always sort of start the process, even on a completely digital piece. I will start the process
hmm
with a pencil in my hand on a piece of paper, and then take that layout and thumbnail, and then
hmm
get into a digital world and then manipulate it. So,
yeah,
and I guess that's just this remnant of not being able to just live completely in that environment, which is a beautiful thing. It's very cool.
yeah.
So okay, so digital rough, you're knocking in. I love that you're using different colors so you can define different areas in the work.
um,
Smart. And then so now you flatted things and you started adding
hmm yes.
some, I guess, some flares to give the little lighting touches, just to
Yeah.
get that.
hmm
And you knocked your face in there, so now we have a woman to look at. Um,
hmm
Very cool. I like your little touch lines that you do off of the edge of her tunic, I guess.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's I
little
I,
action lines.
that's a it's a sort of yeah, it's a sort of style that I've kind of like developed in me. I've actually I when I was doing the commission one time, somebody wanted me to do a portrait, and I think at when I was drawing it, I was like it feels so stiff, and
Mm,
also too I used to be a dancer, so I miss sort of like moving.
yeah,
So for me, those action lines gives a sense of movement, or a sense of like sort of action that there's it doesn't feel
yeah,
still as the character is. So I always put like a lot of like loose lines just to feel like there's a sense of something in there.
yeah.
So
No, I like that. I like the touch because I think it had. I mean, it sort of extends the gesture into your
mhm.
face, and sort of tells you things are moving,
Right,
not in the obviousness of a speed line, but it's a sense of something was here or is coming into this place. I mean,
right.
it's a little bit of a time shift. All right, so now you've added some background touches.
Mm-hmm.
You've done more rendering in the flesh here. So
Yes.
now the muscles are becoming heavier and defined, like it. And then boom, a few extra little doodads. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Crazy, man.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask the real nerdy question. So what how many layers are you ending up when it just with a piece like this?
Um. whew. Sometimes
I know the answer is, but
it could be sometimes a lot, but I always like to always, well, for one, because my laptop it has a limit. So when
Mhm.
it gets to like around 100 layers or 90 or something,
Yeah.
my laptop it acts up. It's like no, it ain't. But I always try to once I like do a little render, and I feel comfortable to like merge it to the flats, I'll
Yep.
keep merging it to the flats.
Yeah.
So I always sort of separate, and I always experiment. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Sometimes whenever I do these cover, I mean whenever I like color and stuff,
Mhm.
I don't plan my colors. I just, sporadically figure
Really?
out what I'm feeling. Yeah. I just use reference, and
Yeah.
sometimes, the reference or the inspiration that I'm looking for, I'd be like, okay, I kind of am feeling this tone or color, and I want to bring that to the piece. But sometimes I just like, just throw out colors sometimes. I use the curve tool a lot, so I sometimes just, alter colors to figure out what I'm feeling or
Okay.
what the set of mood that I want for the piece. And from there on, yeah. So
That
it's a lot of experimenting, and there's a lot of I do plan, what I'm doing at times with
yeah.
certain covers, but mostly it's very sporadic. So yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I was just saying to someone this weekend how like I was a horrible penciler to colorists because I would say
Mm.
so coloring used to be done by you would code each color
Oh
on the
wow.
page. So
Yes, yes, I do. I remember hearing that. Yeah.
and I would call out specific colors that like things needed to be because like my
Hmm.
mind was drawing and I'm like this has to be this color and
Hmm.
I apologize to all colorists in the past. You're all great and I was a jerk. Um, yeah, so this is cool. This you got a bit of that sort of Alphonse Mucha thing going on with the elements in here.
Yes.
Beautiful. I love it.
Nubia.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's gorgeous.
Um, yeah. This one took about 2 months, and the reason why was because they were just bringing her title into DC.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I actually asked DC about Nubia because I was just like, because they wanted me to do something for DC Pride, and they gave me two characters, but the two characters I wasn't not feeling it at all, and I just told them, is Nubia part of this? And that's how they got me into the part of project with the whole Nubina Nubi mini series, and
Really?
from
Okay.
there on, yeah. So I
Yeah.
was just like, okay, I really wanted to do her, and it's really amazing to see that she's like in her limelight now,
Oh my God.
and not as like a shadow as Wonder Woman shadow. So yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I was talking with David Walker,
Hmm.
and and he went to SVA. I don't know if you know this. Totally random.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. He's going to
it's a
be
small world.
he'll be coming on the show soon, so
Nice.
I can't wait to have the real long. I think it's going to be a long talk. David seems to be a good talker, so we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have to like give him some throat spray or something to keep up. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, he's a great guy, and yeah, and the limelight is on. I love what you did here, effects wise.
Thank you.
I love the whole sort of shifting quality to
Thank you.
yeah.
This was for Z Comics.
Okay.
I think this was called, and it was a collaboration with Balmain, and they wanted me to do something for them, and they were celebrating the creative directors for that fashion company. And yeah, they wanted me to do something very like they gave me a certain collection, and they told me to pick which one I wanted to do, and I went with the collection where there was a lot of like latex and stuff,
Okay.
and they wanted me to do something very like actiony, very sci-fi esque, and I wanted to do, for me, especially now that I'm like into very into fashion and everything, that I was always into like the very badass, like with beautiful like really couture looks, and
Yeah.
then weird like, and then women holding like a gun or a sword and
Sure.
stuff. So I really wanted to just do something with this and stuff. So yeah.
I
And
I love those. I love those pictures from the magazines. Like my wall in in art school, my dorm room was just covered with pictures from fashion magazines because I
Yeah.
love those layouts. They would just do these great, you know, wacky clothes, but then
Mhm.
they would have these just odd objects, and it was always this cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is beautiful. I love what I really love how you just handled the treatment of that shifting sort of.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really really cool idea.
Yeah.
Um, Bellissimo. Great too, man.
Thank you. This is actually my favorite. I actually asked them also too that I wanted to do a black cat cover,
Yeah.
because I had it in mind, engraved in my mind, to do something for her. And I really want to do a Catwoman cover, but I felt at first, what, let me do something in Marvel's universe
Yeah.
where I could do Black Cat. And for this one, I really wanted to do something very like fashion editorial,
Mhm.
something just very like you can see it on a Vogue cover, or you can see it on a V magazine cover. Um,
Totally.
so I really wanted to do something, and also I really wanted to make it very like pin-uppy, the good girl kind of feel, but still felt very avant-garde a little bit. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I
What? No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Yeah.
No, finish your statement.
Oh, finish my. I'm sorry. What I wanted to say was I had a hard time trying to pick which pose I wanted to do, and I found the exact pose. So from there, I was like, this was it. I did remember when I did thumbnails, I was quite hesitant of them to pick this pose because I was like, oh, it's going to take quite some time with how the anatomy was going to be. Um, but then they picked that one. I was like, okay. And from that in my, this was, I would say, a piece that I knew exactly the colors
Mhm.
and everything, because I just knew in my mind I wanted to make something that was just like, it felt like a sort of spotlight kind of moment.
Yeah,
So
it's got the diamonds are a girl's best friend,
yes,
pink
yes,
vibe. It's got it has all those elements right in there, and it's so funny. But in these last few minutes with your talking about the fashion, like it all really coalesces together. I'm like, oh yeah, of course he's illustrating fashion editorial images, like but for comic books, and
yeah.
it's very. I mean, it's very on point. So I'm yeah, and this piece is really stunning. This should be
Thank you.
it should be a poster like this. I would have had this poster on my wall growing up. Yeah.
Uh, I would love. Unfortunately, I sold this piece to comic shop, so I can't make the prints that I really want to.
Mm,
So I didn't really think about, and also too, I've been seeing that it's been on high price on eBay. So I was just saying I didn't expect as much interest as I would expect, because I knew that it was gonna, when
yeah.
I made it, I knew it was gonna be that cover, but I knew it was gonna be that cover that people
Right.
wanted. So.
No, it's great. It's a showcase piece for sure.
Mhm.
This is wonderful too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Not enough
for,
credit for this character. She has not gotten enough credit yet. So
say it again.
she has not received enough credit in my opinion.
Yes, she has not. Unfortunately, she needs more. I For this one, I actually, for the person that I used for it, was like a Twitch streamer that I really love and adore. Her name is Storm Obey, and she's an amazing Twitch streamer, variety streamer, and I wanted to use her as the face of Monica,
Mhm.
and I really wanted to do something very like space stuff. I was very inspired a little bit of the Adam Hughes Captain Marvel
Yeah.
cover, so I
Sure.
really wanted to do something like more with this one, but just a lot more just with her, like just coming out from like a sort of like a space explosion or something
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a little secret, which is no secret. We're all inspired by Adam. So
Oh.
like it's no joke.
I I
He changed a lot. One dude changed a lot. So speaking of DC Pride, this is going to cover us. So you and I are going to
mhm.
disappear for a moment while we talk about it. Um, this is a very cool piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This one, I it was funny because I when they gave me this, I was just like, okay, like it was kind of like a challenge because it's like a group of people, and I have to really show different personalities in this one.
Hmm.
And I wanted to bring a sense of, also again, um because it was funny because one of the editors who from DC was like, they wanted to have like a sort of Vanity Fair kind of feeling for it.
Totally,
So
totally.
it I really wanted to bring a sense of like, different perfect personalities and different, I didn't I didn't want to make them, even though they are perfect, but I was from between Harley and like Ivy, and like also I would say Kid Quick. I wanted them to feel like, people that you kind of like see from the outside. And
Yeah,
for Harley, I wanted to make her. I didn't. I When I see a lot of like Harley work, they always make her very pretty and preppy, and I wanted for her to feel very like awkward, but still kind of cool and grungy. That's
yeah,
how I kind of look for her and stuff. And then, with Ivy, I wanted her to make like very provocative, but also very like, um, just what's it called? Predominantly just very like fashion esque.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I love that Harley. I mean, she just looks, she looks like a tough girl,
yeah.
tough girl. I love that. Yeah, no, it's a great piece, and
Yeah.
you must be proud. That,
I am. I was very honored that they asked me to do this, and
yeah,
I really wanted to bring something, different and
I'm sure
still
they're thrilled.
feel just new. So
Yeah, I'm sure they're thrilled with it. I mean, it's it's an amazing piece. And this one, this is great. This is
thank you.
yeah. This is, I mean, this has got like, it's very different, because there's, I feels more sort of like you're playing with a lot more iconography in this, and
Yes. Yeah.
I like that whole sort of touch to this, because it gives them, and then you're able to sort of like instill the personalities with the two of them. So
Yeah. For that one, that was for Entertainment Weekly, and they wanted me to do like an illustration for that TV show. And amazingly enough, Sebastian Shawn, he re-uploaded and tagged me of this piece, and
very
yeah,
cool.
it was really cool. I was very honored from that.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, it's a cool piece. I'm sure the both of these guys dig it.
Yeah.
It captures it. Now, so it's always interesting when you do things, if you like, let's say you did this as a cover for Marvel, you would do
Mhm.
an editorial review process, but in the regards of doing it for Entertainment Weekly, you got to deal with them, but you also have to deal with, they have to deal with Marvel, or Disney in that respect. So
Yeah.
it's probably a little more intensive in the sort of the magnifying glass attention for the work.
Yeah, because for this one they really told me like you have to like have their likeness, that they have to be look like the actors and stuff. So like,
Yeah,
which for me, I don't have a hard time with likeness because I that's something that I draw a lot of people, and I always very focus on getting um this sense of likeness and sense of like they you know are you know basically there's a bit of realism, but there's also still a bit of different style to it. So
yeah. So what I mean, so that's an interesting thought of like, so what do you focus on, as when you're sitting down to do a likeness, because
hmm
you're not like, with the Black Cat, you're not doing a likeness,
hmm
you have to stay on model, like he
hmm
just has to look like Black Cat within a certain range.
yeah.
But like for those two guys, those are two actors, and and they're saying, hey, you need to make them look like. So when it comes to that, what do you focus on and think about when you're capturing a likeness?
um just to get their bone structure, and like there are certain eyes, and also their nose and stuff like
Yeah.
it has to be right. And also I don't know, for me it there's some people when I draw them, I do have like there is a hard time on getting their likeness right and not lose it, especially with the style that I have. So for me, I just tend to always focus on what's the main things that is very similar to that actor, that but still feels like there's a stylized feeling for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting as you click them off and I'm thinking about when you're saying, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, yeah, bone structure. That's so now there. That's your framework. Like if you
Mhm.
get that right, and then eyes, yes, because they're the window to the soul. So we
Mhm.
look at eyes first and foremost when we look at people, and then like, and then the nose because it's the most prominent feature on our
Right.
face because it sticks off of us.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it's interesting. Like you actually went in the order of the things that are sort of like it's like that priority list. I was at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. All right. You pass. You pass. It was a pop quiz. Um, this is and this is very. I mean, look. It's a very different kind of approach to Harley. You know, like
Yes.
you know,
Yeah. This.
this
Yeah.
this is like the girl from the softball team. You know, and this is someone who clearly has, you know, bad intent in mind.
For this one, this was for Imagine FX cover, and they wanted me to do a cover for their issue for about comic artists, and I had to do a step by step. And also because of Suicide Squad that was coming out during that time, being that they wanted me to do the outfit from the movie, so I had to do that. And yeah, that's really basically really it on that. The only thing I would tell you this, um, between seeing the DC Pride and this, I
Mhm.
always give like Harley like a little like cuts and stuff just
Yeah.
to feel like there is she is still like kind of yeah, this, like I said, there's a sense of grunge to her that I like to bring into her character, so yeah.
And she almost doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's sort of like, well, you know, it's just the cost of doing business. I'm gonna be all scuffed up, and that's fine.
Right, yeah. And
Um,
also you kind of there, of course there is the cutesy feeling of her,
sure.
her, but there is the tough side. So I always wanted to bring the sort of, there is a sense of toughness, a sense of clumsiness also for her too, so
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it's almost like she almost isn't comfortable in like her own skin into some sense. There's a little bit.
right, in a way, yeah.
That's interesting. So I grabbed this next one because I just uh, so I maybe you can explain this to me. Why
Mhm.
is magic so popular right now?
So I would tell you this. I think you saw. I don't know if you saw the magic that I did
Yes.
that looked like the PlayStation 2 kind of cover. So when I was doing this was at the time being before I was, doing stuff for Marvel and DC. I wanted to do like a sort of like a team where it was more like sorceress and stuff. So it was gonna have like magic, it was gonna have Scarlet Witch and stuff. And I wanted to do a sort of sense of like fashion-esque different style for them. So the reason why I have her in sort of like pleasure heels, because I felt like I, I really felt like at that time being like the idea was like she went to another dimension, probably from like the limbo, and they probably gave her demon heels, and she's able to walk through those stuff with those
They're
heels. And
magic. They're magic demon heels. She can
yeah.
the
So, and then also I was very inspired by, Anya, because, Anya was magic. So I wanted to give a sense of a different take on the character, more, I guess, not a grunge, but more dystopian kind of look, but still feel very fashion-esque.
yeah
So, yeah.
has shades of old Pat Benatar videos from the early.
Yes, yeah.
So let's the Miles. So the Miles covers.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. You've got this. You know, I mean, how so like how inspiring to you was seeing something like Into the Spider-Verse when it came out.
Oh, it was amazing. Let
Yeah.
me tell you this. When they introduced Miles Morales as Spider-Man, like having a black Spider-Man, it was just very like it was very a big deal, because it was just like, oh my god, there was someone that I can like see myself,
Mhm.
as. And no hate to Peter, but it's just seeing someone who is like that you can be like reminded of is like really cool. And then also the what's it called, the animation, the film
Yeah.
is just, it's amazing. It was really amazing, beautifully worked out. And I'm very glad that I'm able to get to do covers for him and able to like bring out the sort of style that I want to give in in his world, and also for Marvel and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's I think that's, I mean, that's one of the great things about, like, comic characters.
Yeah.
We look for the things in the characters that not only remind us of us, but things that we would like to be. So
Right.
this kind of confluence of these two kind
Hmm.
of elements. So you can go like, oh, I can relate to this character visually,
Hmm.
experientially, or like, oh, like I also really, really wish I could be, able to help someone or whatever the thing is. Like,
Right.
really, I mean, it's kind of, it's great. And I think Miles, like, there's an amazing sort of purity to his character,
Yes.
with who he is and how he sort of engages within his own universe.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's great. And I mean, I'm going to challenge your Spider-Man 2 thing. I personally think this is the greatest comic book movie done, even though it's,
No, no, no. I believe with you. It's
yeah,
but yeah, I definitely
it,
yes.
it's just, the thing is, it has an unfair advantage because it's an animated film.
Yes.
The the thing about an animated film is like you have to have your story as perfect as a story can be before you start making it, because
Right.
they're drawing it. It's not a matter of like, hey, let's reshoot this, or let's, I mean, like, it's a very different kind of process,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
traditional film. But great colors. I love this.
Thank
I
you.
love aggressive uses of magentas and greens and blues and
Thank you.
purple. Like, if I anytime, like, just blow the palettes, away, and knock people's heads out, with color. It's always fun. Um, this is sweet. I'm
Thank you.
enjoying the series. I think this is it's a
I
real fun series.
Are you talking about the show?
Yeah,
I need to watch the show. I'm waiting until it piles up with episodes that I can be able to watch it.
yeah.
But also I'm also busy. But yeah, this was the first time I've did like Miss Marvel, and it was really I really enjoyed drawing her, and I'm really glad for her, being open wide in the mainstream now with her story and stuff. So
You'll like.
um
You'll dig it. You'll dig the show.
yeah, it
Um,
I yeah.
yeah, I mean, I really feel like I would, were I a younger person drawing comics, I'd be like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
I would love to draw her, just because I think there's so much. I like characters that are fun. I like characters
Yes.
that have a lot of visual things you can do with the characters. So like a Green Lantern type characters, or where you
Hmm.
kind of really make things happen visually. So yeah, that's cool. Here we are. Look at this. This is
Yes.
thoroughly
This
evil.
was really fun to do. My editor asked me, because they were doing some sort of like alternate, um, like sort of timeline or universe where like some characters were like villains. So for this one, they wanted me to merge Mary Jane with it's not. I think his name is Night something, not Nightcrawler. Um,
Oh, Nightmare.
Nightmare, yes,
Yeah,
Nightmare.
look at me.
So yeah, they so they really wanted me to merge those two characters, and I was like, okay. And I had to do like a little bit of character design with this one because I wanted to have a different look. I was very into Mugler bodysuits,
Okay.
so I was looking to a lot of those, and that's how I kind of sort of figure out what I wanted to do with the sort of piece and her look as Mary Jane and Nightmare being merged, and then yeah, that's basically I wanted to for like her wrist and everything to have like belts and have like a sort of S&M kind of feel with her side and stuff. So I I definitely, and also the messy hair and her having like really dark makeup eyes and
Yeah,
like she's sort of like crying in a way.
sure.
So yeah, and I was also very into the how Enchantress looked in the Suicide Squad, the
Yeah,
other one. So I really wanted to have give a feeling that she's sort of possessed. So yeah.
yeah. No, I like. I mean, not that I like people. I don't like the idea of possession. I'm not pro possession, but yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. And then Mister Trouble himself. Um,
Yes.
I love the your treatment with the stones, or gems. I'm sorry, infinity
Thank you.
stones, infinity gems. They're stones. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, because I like that whole real. I mean, it's interesting because when I look at it,
Hmm.
one sort of feels like there's a spectrum of color in there, but there isn't. But just the way you treated it with the background, it really
Yeah.
kind of gives that kind of cool spectral quality.
Yeah.
So
This one was really fun to do. When they asked me to do Thanos for Marvel Tales, I was like, oh, Thanos. And I was just like, it was really fun to you know, kind of like figure out what kind of outfit that I wanted to draw for him. So since they wanted to me to do the Thanos quest, that I had to do his classic kind of look to him.
right,
And his class look just is quite basic, but I wanted to bring some sort of more modern take to it a little bit more, not as how the Marvel Universe does it, but more of an a sense of feel like he has an outfit or a different new take of it. But yeah, it was fun to do in a sort of worm's eye view kind of angle, and to show out his teeth and eyes, this sense of like power that I wanted to emulate.
yeah.
So
Where do you think Thanos gets his outfit? I mean, like he's this, the space traveling, pseudo god with all this power. Do you think he finds a planet where they have some really interesting fashion and then gets some sort of like fashion designer on that planet to make him an outfit and then he destroys the planet so no.
I think so. I think he would
I
be
want to
like,
write that comic. That's the comic. Will you draw that comic if I write that comic?
you know what? Honestly, if that's what it takes for me to do some interiors, then maybe so. Yeah.
I think this should happen. I think we're going to get a lot of support from this part of the conversation. And next thing you know, we're going to be up there in the offices, and they're going to say, "Okay, here, you guys have to make this happen." This, in
Yeah.
fact, Jim Starlin will just bless the comic. He'll be there blessing the comic for us. I'm absolutely positive this is going to happen. So I grabbed this because
Hmm.
so like I mean this is this is, I guess is a still from the actual
Hmm.
film.
Yes.
And so like, what's your process when it comes to taking like, if you're just kind of doing an homage piece of like a still from a film?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. This one was just basically like me just doing a study. It was a study
Yeah.
sketch. Um, I was during that time being when when Fourth Matrix was coming out. I rewatched the first one and all the second and third one. So was just like, man, like especially look at the first movie. I was like, wow, like these certain like scenes are like really good, and I really wanted to draw them. So I really just I wanted to test my skills a little bit and see if I can like do a Trinity like those scenes, doing like just study scenes, just to really you know learn and stuff. And I'm very glad that I did those. So yeah,
So
it was
are
fun, definitely fun.
so I mean you know pretend I have no idea, and this is me just having no idea.
Hmm.
Like, are you throwing this frame up on Photoshop and you're now sort of on layers over, kind of working stuff, and then like, do you have a second, you know, uh, window open with this image, or like, how do you?
Yeah, so basically I would just have that image open on another
Mhm.
space, and I'll just be like basically on my own space, just draw what I'm looking at
Okay.
and stuff, and just correct in certain, like especially with the gun and that sort of per, for foreshadow, that's what
Yeah,
it's called. Yeah,
foreshortening.
yeah, foreshortening, right. That basically I really wanted to express that elongated, exaggerated foreshortening and stuff. And from there on I just basically you know take the colors from the movie and just learn from there. And then also just try to bring out that sense of green that
Mhm.
the movie has and stuff. So it was fun to do. I really I enjoyed doing this. I was just basically just learning how to paint a bit more, but also just learn how to color, and just understanding you know certain things and stuff. So yeah, it was just basically me having fun. That's
No,
all.
it's great. I mean, and it's and it's interesting. I mean, you're saying this, and I mean, these are really interesting lessons, and like to think about, like, so the color theory, the two color theory principles, in ACT here is one is
Mhm.
the mother color. So you have this mother color of green,
Right.
sort of over everything in this piece, but then you have then the only sense of warmth is
Yeah.
her flesh. So
Right.
now we as the viewer are getting this, and her, so the highlights are edged in the green, but
Hmm.
but our eyes are drawn to her because we're looking for the you know thing that is not like the rest of everything else, and that happens to be that her warm skin. So
Right. Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a I mean, the color grading in that film, so clever, very smart, unique, and unique especially for the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really did. It like Saving Private Ryan, which came out, I guess, the around the same time, maybe. Yeah, and but that was a exercise in desaturation. So they pulled as much color out of that film as possible. So they would, so it almost was like at the edge of being a black and white film. So when they did show color, it really kind of impacted the screen. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. So who were, like, I mean, aside, we've already established Adam Hughes is the one of the great influences of the
Hmm.
generation. Um, like, who else was a big influence on you? Like, I mean,
Uh,
photography, illustration, comic books. Who are the people who kind of like just knocked your socks off?
so like for comics, of course, yeah, there was Adam. There was also Terry Dodson, and I
Oh,
know Terry. Terry's a friend of mine. I actually met him around high school. I showed him my stuff, and he was very impressed. And from there on, he's been always the person that I've like get advice to and ask for tips and stuff. So, um, him, Oliver Copel,
mm,
um, Phil Noto.
I was just about to say Phil Noto.
Yeah, Phil Noto is. His work is like amazing, especially how especially his Black Widow runs were like, because I have all the volumes for that,
Yeah,
and the way he did it was just it was just very different for Black Widow, but also too, it was just like the way that he paints and stuff was just really good. So it was just a very different take on the regular pen and ink. So
yeah.
um what else? Bill Snykerwitz, if that's how you pronounce his last. Yes.
I believe it's
He's really
Sienkiewicz.
amazing. I
Yeah, Phil.
love his Electra Assassin comic.
Yes.
Um
Oh, Josh, that's like yeah, you knocked the ball out of the park. That is the high water mark of painted comics. It is
yes, gorgeous.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yes. Um what else? Who else? Uh there's Phil Hale, there's Sargent, there's
Man.
Norman Rockwell,
Yeah.
um and for people that I'm seeing in social media right now, um, there's I know his name. His name is Tarun. I don't know if he Tarun Clark, if that's his name,
Okay.
but look him up. I'll give him his app, but he's a really great artist that I admire also too. Um, and there's also who else? Sozo Makaya that I really love. Um, People in like pop culture. Um, I'm very big into Lady Gaga. So when
Sure.
I was introduced to Gaga as a kid, that was basically how I really got into like fashion and very just different stuff. And that's what I kind of wanted to bring in my work. And then Beyonce and Rihanna and Kendrick Lamar. Um,
Yeah.
who else? In terms of like photography, Nick Knight,
Okay.
Ends of a Nude. Um, yeah, this just and then there's Stephen Klein. So
Sure.
there's a lot of people that that really influenced me, and I try to like bring that into my work. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's. I mean, I think it's great to be able to look at at photography, fashion photography, or any kind of photography,
Hmm.
really, because like their sense of lighting is so like so special
Yes, yeah,
for every single one of them. Like they have a very definitive way that they see the world, and they want to capture that on in frame. Let's just call it in frame.
right.
And so like being able to learn from that techniques, by seeing how they do that, it's amazing. If you can ever get the chance to be on set for one of these, one of the fashion shoots, and just to be a fly on the wall, I
I would love that.
recommend it enough. You'll learn a ton to see, watch how the assistants set up all the lighting and what they're looking for and how they operate.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating prospect. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, you were talking about Rockwell. I mean, I'll give you a little quick Adam story. So Adam, when I first met Adam, I think it must have been like 1990, 89, 90,
Wow.
around there. And there was a book that had just come out on Norman Rockwell by Susan B. Meyer or Susan E. Meyer.
Her
And
name sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, it was this wonderful and comprehensive, pretty thick book on Rockwell.
Hmm.
Adam was like not the titan that he is in the industry at the time. I think he was doing Justice League at the time, so
Hmm.
he was well known, but he wasn't sort of like, the world wasn't, he wasn't the pinup guy at the time. So and so I remember at one show in New York, we just sat there. It was in a hotel, so it wasn't a big fancy comedy
Hmm.
convention, and we just hung out talking about this book that on Rockwell and how obsessive it was. Oh, I think it was, I saw one of the most recent issue he had done, and there was an image that he framed, which was from a Rockwell painting.
Mm.
He used like this interesting building that Rockwell had put into the piece, and I said, "Oh, you must have that book." And he's like, "I totally have that book." And so we sat and bonded over that stuff. And
That's awesome.
the thing is that we have to, like, whatever the thing is, anybody who's making anything, like, respect the medium that you're in, but draw from everywhere you can outside of that medium, because that's
Yeah.
where the magic and interest is going to happen. Because it's like, if all you have to cook with are the same sort of ingredients and spices, it's not that you can't make great food. You can, but wow,
Right.
if you get to pull something in that other people haven't tried before, you get a chance to really blow people's minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, I think that's like the responsibility of whether you're a musician or a comic book artist or anything, a fashion designer or a writer. Like, I mean, your job is to like draw as much from as many sources to bring into something that you can rejigger into something unbelievably cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's, so like, you clearly have a list of
I,
people who are your go-to sources of inspiration, because it's important. Um, so you mentioned earlier, and I was going to ask you, but um, interiors. So
hmm
it sounds
when is that gonna happen?
well,
Not too sure. I
okay, but
am not. I'm gonna tell you this. When I had David Mazzucchelli for my senior year,
mhm.
that man kicked my ass, and I was like, you know what? Even though I was still wanted to do comics, I was like, you know what? Cover art is the way to go for me, because I rather just do just one singular piece
Yeah,
and just there. It's a lot of work, and I don't think that I could do that unless it's a character that I really really will be like, okay, I will do it.
right.
um but for me, I just it's you're gonna just definitely see me just do cover art and just illustration for some time,
Okay,
unless I really feel like I want to take on doing like interiors, unless it's a mini series. I
sure.
will not do ongoing series
Yeah, we're
because
not
that
talking
makes me
about
feel
like,
like I will die.
we're not
So
talking about it. But so, I mean, look, I mean, like I said at the beginning, like, I mean, listen, blown away that you're a recent graduate, and I mean, you are a recent graduate in
yeah.
that sense. Um, and so so other people are going to be as equally blown away by your skill sets. So let's be a little like frank and honest if we can, and you could be honest as you want to be.
Hmm.
That David kicked your ass. So what was it that was kicking your ass so much? Not specifically him, but like what were the things that were sending you back to your desk going, oh.
I just put too much details, and I don't know when to you know to lessen certain things.
Uh-huh.
So when I was doing a lot of the interior work and also time, so for me it's just like I always put lot of details and a lot of stuff in like one panel, and I
Hmm.
forget that sometimes you need to take take one of the important stuff and don't have so much in there.
Right.
That's and for me I just feel like you know especially doing interiors, you're basically everything. You're the director, you're basically the costume, lighting, everything. And for me, it's just like just doing those covers. I just felt like I needed to put more when it should be less than more.
Right.
So for me, I just basically was like, and then he also, I remember he was just telling me like certain stuff when I was doing panels, like my storytelling need to be a little bit clearer,
Hmm.
or or even color wise too. Like why that color you should have been totally different and stuff.
Right.
He pinpoints a lot,
Well,
and honestly, as much I was just like it was killing my soul, and I was just like, man, like I and especially when I remember telling him too, because I was like, hey, like I need another time to like prove, and also I think it was the fact that I knew that I was talented. I was trying to like prove myself a little bit to him because
okay.
he's the man who did Batman Year One, and I love Batman Year One. So
David is
I was
David
just
is David is one of the absolute greatest comic book creators in the history of comics.
like, yes,
So I mean, it is, you know, so everything he says is right, just by that default, from
Mhm.
his point of view and experience. But I get it, and it's good that you said that because I was almost saying that like I'll bet you, like I'm thinking like I'll bet you Josh like overloaded because it's kind of a lack of confidence thing. You're not confident in what you're doing, so you're like, but if I put a lot of stuff in this thing, well then I'm
Mhm.
just gonna wow him, and then like he won't even
Yeah.
notice any mistakes because there
Or
might be
just
mistakes.
or because I'm very good technically, that it's just like
Yeah,
that's gonna wow him, but it's really not.
right. He's able
You
to see
gotta
right
be
through
really
that.
good with your storytelling. So I was just like, you know what, it's gonna be cover art for me. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't don't let that don't let yeah, I mean I know it hasn't dissuaded you because you're
Mhm.
doing it, but definitely don't lock the door. And don't put things up against the door. Let the door be there and just keep it in arm's reach so you can open it up and figure, because listen, there's lots of things that Marvel and DC do that don't require a whole issue. There
Mhm.
are lots of 6-page story chunks that need to happen for something,
Yeah.
and a person with your skill sets can get that. Like, so like a friend of ours, Russ Braun. So
Mm.
Russ had been illustrating The Boys, uh,
Okay.
sort of like his last real big project of like famous project. And
Yeah.
When he first got out of school, he got a project, but like he wasn't 100%, like in the eye of the editorial staff, like he was ready to be penciling. So what they did is they gave him, I think he worked with Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, who is
Mm.
great as comic book artists. And Jose Luis he did the roughs. He did the layouts for the pages, and then Russ was able to go in there and do all the finishes. And Russ is
Mm.
a
Mhm.
phenomenal draftsman with a pencil. And so the pages look brilliant, and I'm probably ruining the whole story. But he's not alone. I've seen so many people who have like great skill sets, but they're like, hey, you know what? We'll just get someone who's really good at, storytelling to do the layouts, and then we'll get, so and so who's an amazing finisher to finish this thing, and it's going to look ridiculously good.
Mm-hmm.
You might find that, like, I did a comic book with Keith Giffen. Keith Giffen writes his comic books. He draws them out. He draws the page panel layouts with a magic marker, and that's your script, and it's great, and you can interpret it however you want as the artist. But if you were like, here's my layouts, I'm ready to go, like, it's right there. Like, it's that really. So the editorial there's a lot of opportunities and variety, and you might be able to get that interior, and you're going to get to work with someone who you're going to go like, oh, that's why. Okay, I get why they did this angle. I get why there is nothing here in the background. It's just the figures, or like, it's like, and then you're gonna get that sort of like level up in your head of going, ding, okay, now you can. And so when you do say, hey, so I don't know, just
I definitely think on it. Just has to be a particular character that I really want to do. It just has to be someone that I would be like, okay, I'll give it the fair share to do it. And also me wanting to do my own kind of comic. So
yeah, you have to do it for our Thanos story anyway. So we got to get you for our. It's going to be a 200-page graphic novel, Josh. So
gosh,
I'm telling you, it's going to be the next big thing. It's just going to need a good title for it. No, I mean, but don't get you'll get the opportunity. I mean, the opportunity is going to be there if you ask for it. It's just a matter of you going, getting that thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if you could do a nice collaboration with somebody on a character you love. And I mean, you could do 6 pages, finish 6 pages of somebody else's layouts, and bang, you're going to be off in the races. So there you go. That's my little pep talk. And don't forget that, like, take a swing at writing too in the future. It's a pathway to creating your own thing.
It's funny because I actually used to write a little bit, and then I sort of like stopped because I was just like, I wanted to just, I guess, do just drawing and stuff. But there is a story that I was working on college that was for my like final project. But I still wanted to. I still have like the idea and still have the energy to really want to go through with it. But I feel like I need someone else who's gonna really work with me on it, because it's basically a horror comic that I'm thinking about. But yeah.
No, since this podcast is all about me, not you, joking. But no, it's no joke, man. Because, like, listen, I had a comic book that I did when I was in SVA too, like the story that I was working on, and then I had a career, penciling, and writing stories for Marvel and DC. And I went off, and I've had a long career as a designer, but like, I pulled out parts of that story from college, and I reconfabulated that and mixed it with other things that I had as ideas for stories. And like, in that requisite, I have written, this is a novel. This is, I don't know, nearly 500 pages, a couple pages short of 500. That was a seed that was, planted, 3 decades ago. And like, they're there. Like, those ideas are their ideas, and
got it.
They can be used, and they can be, nurtured, and you can make something from these things. And that, I mean, and I say this because, like, you could do that, or anybody listening to this can do that. Like, I mean, these things, it takes the that we were talking about, that drive, like, in the beginning, like, this is the thing. It's like, if you have the drive to do it, you can do it.
Right.
So, and I mean, like, you do such rad work. It would be great to see you take a swing at interiors, to see what how you handle, because you were talking about motion because of it, you have that love, for dance. Like, it would be great to see that expressed sequentially, and that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
What are you working on? What can people look forward to seeing in the near?
So you're gonna look for a board game that's coming out
Nice.
soon. That's for Unmatched Games. That's published for Marvel. A Mandalorian cover.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I have to revisit and finish something on the cover, but that's basically it. And then what else? Black Adam cover. That is a
Oh,
movie tie-in for the movie that's coming out. And then a Punisher cover, a Fantastic Four cover, and what else? A Scarlet Witch cover.
ooh.
And I have another project that I just confirmed to be like, all right, I'm gonna do it, but I have not yet confirmed it, so I want to just left it out as it is right now. But I will tell you, definitely is a character that I've like kind of know, but I'm gonna do a very for a take for my own take is gonna be very different. So
Cool. Oh, that's exciting. So, and I mean, that's got to be exciting for you to like take a nice, interesting, like take on something else.
yeah.
Take 3 times in that sentence. That's fantastic. That's so cool. All right. So where can people find you? I have the thing scrolling, but just say it so people know.
You can find me on Twitter, JSwayArt. You can find me on Instagram, Sway_art. I have a art station, which you can basically just put my name, Joshua Swaby, and yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, that's cool. And where are you most? Do you feel you're most active on Twitter or on
Twitter and Instagram? Yeah.
Yeah. I like I like Twitter for the conversational aspect of like things. Like I think when you put things up, your friends are more like sort of active and talking, and they can retweet things, which I think is nice. I think Instagram is sort of just kind of like less engaging.
Yeah, and it's very different how it is. Before it used to be just pictures and stuff, but Instagram is just like trying to be, TikTok, and it's trying to be Snapchat, which it kind of did better Snapchat now because Snapchat, nobody doesn't use Snapchat, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't use Snapchat, but then again, I never use Snapchat. All right, so I'm gonna watch Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness.
Cool.
I'm excited because it's got the Sway stamp of approval. So that's exciting to me. And we'll keep an eye out for the Fantastic Four, the Punisher, and eventually the Scarlet Witch. And then you're busy. This is good.
Yes, very small. And also, I have I forgot 2 remaining. I have a Star Trek cover.
Oh wow.
And I also have I have to finish on a Fortnite loading art.
Okay.
So there's a lot. I'm just swamped. So
well, it's better to be swamped than in a desert. So yeah. I think you're in great shape and for good reason, man. Like it's obvious. Like you're doing some great work out there.
Thank you.
All right, man. You good? Was this good? You're right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I always want to make sure that everyone is thrilled and happy with their time in this madhouse of what I call a podcast. Josh, thank you so much for joining. Like, subscribe to everything, not just us. Just go out there and click, and subscribe to everything. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.